ki, Navadvipdhama ki, Jamunamaya ki, Tulasi ki, Brihat Bandanga ki, Harinam Sankatama ki, Cleveland Rathayacha Sunday Feast ki, Sama Bhakta Vrindadev. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to Ishkan founder, BBT founder, Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki. Nitai Gaur Pamanande. Was that okay?
Yeah,
that was enough.
Yeah,
that was enough.
Nice. I wish I could sing like you, but I can't.
Next life.
Very nice.
Krishna fulfills all desires.
Yes, very
nice. So I guess we're going to start
the
Shinga prayer. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. You want her to leave? Okay.
Me? Reason for that. You've never heard me do it? I don't think he knows it. Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
why you printed it up there.
I don't know that one. All these years, I never learned it.
Want the mic?
Yeah, you know, I'm just teasing. Oh, I don't think I'll need it.
Oh.
I think you're going to do it.
Namaste
Now I remember.
Huh?
Now I remember him singing the song. Very nice.
We have learning YouTube. We have learning YouTube.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjaya Re Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjaya Re Gopi Janalava Girivaradare Gopi Janalava Girivaradare Yasodanandanam Rajajandaranjana Yasodanandanam Rajajandaranjana Yamunatira Punachare Yamunatira Punachare Jaya Rama Rama Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Okay, so we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavad-gita, chapter 17, text 4. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narotamam Devam Sarasyatim Vyasam Tado Jayarire Shinbata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hrityanto Stohaputrani Vedanoti Suritsatam Nasta Praya Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So there's a particular importance to invocations as we sit on the Vyasa-san or the dais. The idea is to get the blessings of His Lordship Vyasudev, and actually we're going to be mentioning Vyasudev today in this about getting that energy, that blessing. So we'll read the shloka here. If we're all there, it's 17:4. I like to start out with the synonyms first, and then we go into the mantra. It kind of helps to everybody get in the same rhythm. Yagyate Satvakaha Devan Yaksharakshamsmi Rajasaha Pretan Bhutaganan Cha Anye Yagyante Tamasaha Janaha Yangyate Savaka Devan Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha Pretan Bhutan Ganas Chanye Yangyate Tamasa Janaha Yangyate Satvika Devan Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha Pretan Bhuta Ganas Chanye Yangyate Tamasa Janaha Yangyate Satvika Devan Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha Pretan Bhuta Ganas Chanye Yangyate Tamasa Janaha Yangyate Satvika Devan Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha Pretan Bhutan Ganas Chanye Yangyate Tamasa Janaha. Please repeat. Anyone? Anyone want to repeat the sloka? Yangyate Satvika Devan Raksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha Pratan Bhutan Ganam Chanye Yangyate Tamasa Jana. Anyone else?
Yajante Satvika Devan
Yangjante Savika Devan
Yaksha Rakshasmi Rajasa
Yaksharam Shamshi Rajasaha
Pretan
Pretan
Bhuta Ganam Chanye
Bhutan Ganas Chanye
Yajante
Yangjate
Tamasa Jana
Tamasa Janaha. Anyone else? Yanjate Savaka Devan Daksharam Shamshija Rajasaha Pretam Bhutanganas Chanye Yanjate Tamasa Janaha. Okay, we'll go back to the synonyms if we're done. Yajate, worship. Satvikaha, those who are in the mode of goodness. Devan, demigods. Yaksha Ram Shamshi, demons. Rajasaha, those in the mode of passion. Pretan, spirits of the dead. Bhutan Ganan, ghost. Cha and Anye, others. Yangjate, worship. Tamasaha, in the mode of ignorance. Janaha, people. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons. And those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Purport. In this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead describes different kinds of worshipers, according to their external activities. According to the scriptural injunction, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable. But those who are not very conversant with or faithful to the spiritual injunctions worship different objects according to their specific situations in the modes of material nature. Those who are situated in goodness generally worship the demigods. The demigods include Brahma, Shiva, and others such as Indra, Chandra, and the sun god. There are various demigods. Those in goodness worship the particular demigods for a particular purpose. Similarly, those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. We recall that during the Second World War, a man in Calcutta worshiped Hitler because, thanks to the war, he had amassed a large amount of wealth by dealing in the black market. Similarly, those in the modes of passion and ignorance generally select a powerful man to be God. They think that anyone can be worshiped as God, and that the same result will be attained. Now, it is clearly described here that those who are in the mode of passion worship and create such gods, and those who are in the mode of ignorance, in darkness, worship dead spirits. Sometimes people worship at the tomb of some dead man. Sexual service is also considered to be in the mode of darkness. Similarly, in remote villages in India, there are worshipers of ghosts. We have seen that in India, the lower class people sometimes go to the forest, and if they have knowledge that a ghost lives in a tree, they worship that tree and offer sacrifices. These different kinds of worship are not actually God worship. God worship is for persons who are transcendently situated in pure goodness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 4:323, it is said, Sattvam Visudham Vasudeva Sabdatam. When a man is situated in pure goodness, he worships Vasudeva. The purport is that those who are completely purified of the material modes of nature and who are transcendently situated can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu from the material world, which is known as philosophized Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, they imagine that Lord Brahma is the impersonal form of the material mode of passion. Thus, they sometimes describe the 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable. But because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. In conclusion, the different qualities of the material modes of nature can be purified through the association with persons who are of transcendental nature. Om Agyanam Tanamanhasya Gana Jana Shalakya Chakshuru Minitam Yena Takshmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swanyam Rupagadam Tadati Swapadatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakabalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raganavahavitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lilita Shri Vatsakavitamscha He Krishna Karun Sindho Dino Bandhu Jagatpate Gopicha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishpadanu Sutta Devi Parinami Hari Priye Vanchagapa Kuru Prishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhepacha Patitinam Padavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. So there's a lot to discuss in this shloka. Some of the things that stood out to me was sattvika. So if we look at some of the definitions, when we think about the mode of goodness, one of the things that came to mind is how do you acquire these qualities? So Krishna talks about this in 1712. He says, Ye chaivam sattvika baba, rajasa tamasa chaye. Almost the same things we're saying, chanye, this is chaye, right? Matta evati tan vidhi, na tvam maham teshu te mayi. So he says here in the translation, now that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my mercy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, were within me. So a lot of people ask this question. If something happened bad, is Krishna at fault? It must be Krishna's fault. And Krishna is clearly saying, I'm not responsible for your karma. And partly because he created the constituency of this material nature, because Prabhupada said we fell down, but it's more like we volunteered to be in the material energy. And it's a volunteer. Oh, sign me up. Right? So, but there's another element to this that we really don't appreciate. How can you love? How can you be loving in the material environment versus loving is natural in Vaikuntha? So let's say you're a great musician and you're playing so nicely, and you're multitasking, you're doing other things, right? And someone says, how can you do that? Oh, it's no problem, right? So that person may propose, what if I blindfolded you and tied one hand behind your back? Can you still play? So you start to experience all these difficulties. So what was natural to you, which was Vasudeva, right? The sattvic nature, it's natural to you. It becomes very debilitating, or you become very debilitated, because now you're blindfolded and you have one hand tied behind your back. So you're actually having to redevelop the skill set. But unfortunately, you're trying to do it through matter. And we're not material. So if we suspend the idea that I am this body, then we can rely on our spiritual nature. And then we can use those skill sets to try to understand how to be loving in a rajasic environment or tamasic environment, right? And that's basically what this is, right? It's not a good environment because the material world actually suppresses the consciousness. That's why we have difficulty. Our consciousness is nothing. It's not our body. It's our consciousness, right? So when our consciousness believes that we are these bodies, then we experience the difficulty of birth, death, disease, and old age. So this is the goal. It's not so much I can get above that, but it's how can I be loving? And the first business of love is self-love. How do I perform the acts of self-love? And I don't mean to confuse that with self-centeredness, okay? Self-love is something, it means what is beneficial for my spiritual consciousness that I must perform, that's going to entrench me in love of self. Because once you achieve higher degrees of love of self, then it's easier to love others because you see them as yourself. That's a real mystery because we're all not different. We come in different packages, but the prize is in the package. The prize is not the package. That's very important to distinguish. The prize is not the package. The prize is in the package. So we are the prize inside the package. So in this purport, it says, all material activities in this world are being conducted under the three modes of material nature. Although these material modes of nature are emanations from the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is not subject to them. That's important. He's not subject. Likewise, we don't have to necessarily be subject also because we're the same quality. It's the Supreme Lord. We're part and parcel. He's the big G, we're the little G's, right? So Krishna is the OG, right? And we're the LG. OG is the original. It's the original gangster. He's the original God. And we're the little God, right? So there's a distinction there. So by understanding our constitutional position, this is the pathway into worshiping the Supreme Lord in this mode. But it starts with you. It starts with you appreciating who you are and loving who you are. That's Visuddha Sattva. That actually exceeds. It's not a mixed, tinged with the trigunas. It's not mixed with that. It's not material goodness. This is real goodness. Because the reason, here's the reason. I've done this in counseling. I would ask people to like name 10 things about yourself that you appreciate or you love. And here's one thing, I'm going to give it to you. You're pure. You're uncontaminated. So if we rest our consciousness in a state of gratitude, I'm so grateful that my soul is actually not contaminated by matter. I'm just in the illusion that I'm the body. But factually, I'm a pure soul. So we always say, oh, he's a pure devotee, she's a pure devotee. In reality, every living creature that's an Atma is pure. They just don't act on it. So this process of Krishna consciousness is to inculcate the principles of acting in purity, acting according to your constitution. Okay? Yeah, we have some faults, but those are material faults, and they don't go with you when you go in a spiritual consciousness. They stay in matter. They stay in illusion. Matter of fact, we were talking earlier about the acronym FEAR, false evidence of appearing real. So this is what Maya is, right? So even the worship, we do all this. This is actually a mechanism to recorrect the consciousness back to its constitutional position. See, because constitutionally, we have to do root activity so that we don't get pulled into nefarious, materialistic root activity. So basically, there is a war to pull the consciousness further into things which aren't real versus absolute reality. And so the soul is part of absolute reality. The body is not absolute reality. It's a virtual reality. It's a temporal reality. It's a hologram. It's a program. It's computer generated through the master computer, which is the mind. When the mind becomes contaminated, it manifests all these things that aren't real. Yes, we feel them. Yes, they're there, but they go away. Thank God they don't last. They're not eternal. So this is what we can appreciate. So we have to understand this concept of worshiping. I can spend time, talking about the other modes of worship, and we kind of do it anyway. If we like rock stars, that's our rajasic worship, right? Because it makes the senses feel good, right? Something that I thought was very, very telling in this. It says, Prabhupada says, he says, sexual service is also considered to be in the mode of darkness. Now, I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure you guys know what those are. But there's something you may not know. Because some people are so dark in their consciousness. They do a thing called sex magic. Have you ever heard of that? You've heard of it. So
They called something else
Huh? Is it called something else? It can be, but let me describe it. It may meet this criteria that you have. So when you get a poster of your favorite idol and you are imagining you're in some kind of connubial bliss with this person, because the mind manifests that, it actually projects to that person. That's why it's dangerous to be a celebrity. It's no wonder why they crash, because they don't have protection against these things. You have to be protected, because this subtle form of manifestation can actually make that person an addict, sex addict, okay? And then of course comes the sex services, right? So this is just through a poster. Another example was you dated this person in your life and you had some relations with them and you find out they're a little crazy. And then you break up with them and they won't leave you alone. You've ever seen the movie Fatal Attraction? That's an example of that. And you find yourself dreaming, or this person comes to you in your dream, because this is the subtlety. It's a program. This is the power of the mind, right? And you have to understand, this is what this person's reaching out to me. A good example is like you're thinking of your mother, and you're just thinking of her. Next thing you know, she calls, right? This is the power of our mind, right? But there's also a reaction. There's a reaction to these things, and it can be very contaminating. So, it says, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you meditate on. Be careful how you're meditating and why you're meditating. Well, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then you get it. And it becomes a disaster. So this thing we don't talk about a lot, but a lot of people are in these dark arts. They could use something like tarot or something. They could use it for nefarious purposes, right? Because they're in these lower modes. So it's a form of worship, right? It's in a Rajasa, Tamasa. So you're seeing that Prabhupada is mentioning that there are individuals who they want to get some boom, so they find ghosts. But what they don't understand, there's a relationship that those ghostly manifestations have. So because they give you a bone, they get to sometimes utilize your body because they're disembodied and they can't enjoy in the same way that you can in a gross form. They haven't mastered the superiority of consciousness manifestation, so they're stuck there. They're much more powerful, but they're stuck in that realm. There are also, Prabhupada mentioned 4.3.33, which is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He mentioned Sattvam Vasudam Vasudeva Sadatam Yat Ityate Tatra Punya Pavritaha Satvicha Tasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Hi Andaksho Jo Me Namasa Vidyate. In translation, I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. I'll read the purport here. There are some very telling things. Another unlocking of the key of how to become Krishna consciousness. The living entity is constitutionally pure. Asango hiyam purusaha. In the Vedic literature, it is said that the soul is always pure. I just said that. And uncontaminated by material attachment. That is the property of the soul. Read that again. The soul is always pure and uncontaminated by material attachment. The identification of the body with the soul is due to misunderstanding. As soon as one is fully Krishna conscious, it is to be understood that one is in his pure, original, constitutional position. This state of existence is called Sudasattva. So we're talking about this, Sudasattva, right? Pure Krishna consciousness, which means that it is transcendental to material qualities. Since this Sudasattva existence is under the direction or the direct action of the internal potency, in this state, the activities of material consciousness stop. Let's stop there. This activities of the material consciousness stop. Why does it stop? Because matter cannot penetrate spiritual consciousness. It's at a lower frequency. If you look at it, 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, 6, so on, all the way up to 18. So the third dimension can't enter the realm of higher dimensional states. So if your consciousness is at this higher dimension, then lower dimensions cannot penetrate it. And if you're around people who are lower dimensional, they can't penetrate you unless you step off of your throne. If you lower your consciousness, right, you have to remove your consciousness from that higher realm in order to be impacted. That's exactly where we are right now. We removed our consciousness from the higher realm, and now we're in this third dimension. Well, maybe just me. Okay. So this is what we're experiencing. So if we raise the consciousness again, the frequency, then we can not be impacted. For instance, there may be ants crawling around your feet. There's certainly microbiotic entities you don't even notice. But if you could see them, you might be disturbed. You might be. But because the consciousness is high, we're vibrating. We had this discussion how smaller living entities like an ant, because of the 3-dimensional space that they may be in, or even 2-dimensional, they can't even perceive us. Just like there are higher dimensional beings that are listening to kirtans or this lecture, and there may be ancestry that accompany you. We can't perceive them because our consciousness, our vibration is low, but they're there. In this room, you would say that the humanoids here predominate this room. But how many molecules are in that water? How many molecules are in the air? We happen to be a minority in the room. But if we consider ourselves Jiva Atma, then we predominate everything in nature. It's pervasive because that's the constitutional position of the soul. So we have to understand that we're pure and we need to act in purity. And there are techniques by worshiping the Supreme Lord, who is also pure, that puts you in the mode of goodness. So Prabhupada also says, if you take a rod and put it in the fire, it becomes warm. Then that rod becomes like fire. It adheres to the properties of fire. It no longer becomes a rod. It becomes fire. So by it cooling down, right? Again, down, it assumes again the properties of just matter. So we have to understand that we're like that. So by this association, by the proper asanga or sangha, by the proper sangha, by having a proper association, we can be lit. I know that's a woke term, right? Man, this was lit, you know? We can become like that quality of fire. So that's our aspiration. That's the goal. And it's very simple. And it starts with being loving to yourself. If you start there, then it's easier to tolerate others once you start, because you're like, I'm in a good space right now, and I'm going to tolerate that person because my sanctity, my serenity is more important than this person's false ego. Or maybe they're trying to gaslight me or whatever. That's not really that important. So this is a state of consciousness. Also, some of the qualities, if we look at, I think it is in the 14th chapter, and I'll just read this, and hopefully I won't put you to sleep, but it'll be a good bedtime story if need be. How are we doing on time?
Fine.
We good? Okay. 14th chapter, Bhagavad-gita. Oh, that's the 4th chapter. 14th chapter, 3 modes of material nature. So if we look at the 3 modes, Krishna is talking to Arjuna. He says, I think we picked this up in text 5. Material nature consists of the 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, Almighty Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So there's a mastery that's happening with the modes of nature because we become subjected in order to be conditioned. It's like me working in prison. I always said a prison is simply a conditioning. It reforms you to be more criminal, or you take reformation and you try to get out of that. On 6, O sinless one, the mode of nature, or the mode of goodness, is being purer than the others, is illuminating, and is free from all sinful reactions. Those situated in the mode become conditioned by the same happiness and knowledge. Now that's something to be careful, because that is the material sattvic nature. So we can see people. An example, philosophers, scientists, they're considered to be mode of goodness because of their knowledge. They're content in that. Administrators, they're in the mode of passion, right? And then we see people who are in the revolving door, through prison, what have you. They're in the mode of ignorance, right? So to explain that a little more about mode of good, the scientist, goodness actually helps you create good brain power. Okay, so you can actually exclude, and this is in the material sense, you can actually exclude, and you can see people, they can be very, you see those scientists, they don't comb their hair, they don't clean their place, they have things simple, they're just in knowledge, right? But we know Krishna is not impressed by that. He's already the Omni King, right? He's got all the knowledge. Not impressed by that, okay? And then you have these administrators. We see it now with current affairs that are going on in the world. Give me another $106 billion. Give me this, give me that, give me. And then we can solve the problem. We can create freedom. And all they're doing, and Prabhupada said this, that there's no material solution to material problems. So even though they keep putting money towards stuff, resources, manpower or person power, people are still dying. We had with viruses, well, we got a cure for it. People take it and then it's more problems. And people are polarized by, should I take it, should I not? You have all kinds of things. So it's not a solution. So the biggest solution is higher consciousness. Because when you're in higher consciousness, it's very difficult to get sick. I'm here to tell you. It's very difficult because Viruses are also in the mode of ignorance. They're low vibrational things. And if you match that, then you have a sangha, you have an association. 7, the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive activities. So this is how we create karma. It's only in this mode. So this is why when we're chanting, in the morning, we're talking about, what's the 8th offense? Considering chanting Hare Krishna to be one of the ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas, the fruitive activities, karma kanda, right? We think it's karma. So we get in and then we get out. We get in and we get out, right? So what we're trying to do is do akarma. We're trying to cut it off. We don't want karma. If we do, it's spiritual karma. That karma is eternal. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So we have to understand the nature of something. Then we can, like an electrician, if he understands the current, then he knows the proper flow and what it's supposed to go into. They can read these things. So we have to be like that. We also have to be scientists, because this is a science. This is the science of self-realization. So if you realize that you're a pure soul already, now is to have the consciousness match that frequency. You're already there, but you have to pull it up. And you can do it by association. You can do it by prasadam, right? You can do it by kirtan. There's so many different easy processes. You don't have to fold your legs like a pretzel, right? You don't have to be in ice cold water for 60,000 years, right? Or in the Himalayas and walk on hot coals. You don't have to do these things. These are just mind gymnastics. The real yoga is controlling the mind, or putting the mind back on the shelf it belongs, right? See, we actually have a higher shelf life. But when we move our consciousness lower, right, we have an expiration date. This is karma. This is the effects of karma. So we have to understand it from that standpoint. So anyway, I want to make this more engaged. So if you have any questions, comments, corrections, realizations that you may have, please share them with us now.
So it's saying that many people worship impersonal Vishnu. Are we talk about material possessions? Are they kind of associating that with material desires and possessions?
Yes.
Is that the impersonal Vishnu?
When they refer to the impersonal Vishnu, we're also talking about the Brahman realization. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So the impersonal Vishnu is a lot of these Mayavadis actually come to the conclusion that I'm also Vishnu. Right? So impersonalism means that you don't consider God a person. You see him as an object. So there are various activities that they engage in that make them impersonal. In other words, they have the facade. They pretend that we're worshiping, but really what they're going, I'm really the God. I'm God, or worship me. So this is also can fall in the category of ignorance. So let me go back to that shloka and look at that. I think it was in the last part of the purport, as Prabhupada talks about the impersonal. He also mentions the impersonal Brahman. So you have the sun shine, the sun planet, and then you have the sun surface. Sunshine, people, let me worship the sun. But what they don't understand, there's a personality on the sun, right? Like I may admire your car, your truck, right? But I may think, oh, well, now maybe this truck can be mine. I totally dismiss there's a person who drives that truck, right? So that's kind of a self-centeredness that happens within personalism. People start to believe that there really is no God. I can become God, right? So this is a trick of the mind that often happens. And actually is one of the last snares before we reach the higher plateaus of consciousness thinking, because you become very powerful. You become a very powerful yogi. You can actually manifest things, planets, whatever you desire. If I wanted to experience your life, I can make myself anima. I can become smaller than smallest. I can enter your ear and say, for instance, I like your wife, right? Or something like that. And I can induce you into sexual activity, right? And then I can experience that, right? So it's a control thing. It happens subtly through advertisement. You get something or foods, they are designed. Like we're told, how's that shloka go? It's in the Nectar of Instruction. Trying to remember it. But the one dealing with controlling the Vacho Vega, Manashu Kroda, Vemjiba Vegam, Vikasana Vegam. So as you start looking at that, controlling the tongue, well, there are mechanisms to make you not control your tongue, right? And that starts with the mind. So we control the tongue through foodstuffs. And then we control our genitals, right? By types of food that we're eating, the time that we're eating. There's all sorts of things that go into that so that we can control our mind and senses. And it may take some people a long time to do that. But over the course of time, you're able to do those things. Okay? So this material world, they have mechanisms in place. You deserve a break today, so get up and get away. Et mec stupid. So you go to these places and have it your way. So it's a program. We're old enough. I'm not that far in age from you, right? A couple of years. So we can remember all the ads that we saw in the 70s and in the 60s in the car. We could recite those things today. I wish that the world could sing in perfect. See, all these things start coming back. It's been 50 years, since you've heard those advertisements, but they come back. It's the program. So we're not drinking Coke. Well, I'm not. I couldn't drink it if I wanted to. I'm not criticizing anybody who does. I'm just saying I wasn't a fan of it back in the day. My thing was Orange Crush, So, but you remember these things, and there's a program. The program is connected to a culture. The culture is connected to belonging. How do I belong to something? Right? So it's a mind program, right? And in that mind program, we were talking about this earlier, how they spend trillions of dollars to keep you a consumer. So this is unraveling that program by creating, so your neural paths, you're webbing new ones so that you can actually, okay, now let me think of Krishna. Because we're not really convinced that Krishna is the best thing. We're not convinced that Krishna is the sweetest thing, right? We're not convinced that Krishna is so loving, right? Because we get in the way, or we put blockages up in the form of all these advertisements because we've been programmed. And that's why they do it. They do it to stunt your spirituality. So we were talking, why in the West do people are not more, can be more favorable to God consciousness? Even in certain other religious sects, they have a program. It's not realistic, but they have a program. And in that program, it's meant to keep you in a certain way. You have to worship this way. You have to believe this way. There's hell and damnation. They're not telling you, I'm creating my hell and damnation. They're not helping you to control the mind and getting you to understand you were born into sin. Okay. But the reality is I volunteered for it. And I'm not trying to separate. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying this simple life. It's wonderful, right? What is that? The word sin. It's on like computers or they have the word. You see it certain places, just like you see the word Om on back of speakers, and so they put things out there. We're not always aware. I call this externography. You'll find all this mystery stuff that's right in front of you, but we're so blind we don't see it. Because spirituality has to operate in a material setting. Otherwise, materialism cannot function without it. See, materialism is dependent upon the spiritual nature. In other words, put it succinctly, if you weren't here in this material, your consciousness wasn't here, then your body couldn't exist. Does that make sense? If your consciousness wasn't wrapped up into then the matter couldn't exist, right? All this stuff, I want to go to Florida. Instantaneously, you're there. Or I want to go to the spiritual world like Narnamuni. Instantaneously, you're there. But I got to drive. I got to get a ticket. I got to find if the wifey can go or my husband can go. He's got to have time off work. So all those things are the material things. But simply just by thinking of Vrindavan, right? You're in Vrindavan. Thinking of going back home to India, right? You can be there. It's consciousness. So we have to understand this idea of impersonalism. It's materialism to separate you from the real thing. So this is one way. I'm not saying it's the only way. It's a way to understand what impersonal is. Impersonal means there's no love there's no love connection. You remember that TV show, Love Connection? There's no love connection, right? And that's what makes it impersonal. I may talk to you harshly, not respecting who you are, not even your body. So that can be very impersonal. And I may just induce you into slavery. I just want to use your body and your labor, and I don't really care about you. So we get a lot of, so we experience, if we work in jobs, we experience impersonalism every day. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Hope I was thorough with it.
It's a nice name for a phony or a fake. Really, I mean, you're putting it nicely.
Yeah. Fake news. It's all fake. Mataji, you had a question? You didn't? Okay. Someone else had a question? Comment? Realizations? What did you get out of this? I mean, was there any connections in terms with the concept of the process of accepting that you're already pure? It's in the scripture, right? The question is, how do we act on it? How do we do that?
I think I really need to keep telling myself, there's a difference between your consciousness, that pure soul, and your mind. And the mind is all the junk, all the matter, and so you're constantly trying to improve your mind, but it really doesn't work. So you really have to work more on, I am a pure soul. You really have to it's easy for you to say that and read it, and I'll read it and say it, but to really kind of meditate on that and really, really think about that. And why would Krishna not love that?
Right.
That Krishna really loves that. All the other stuff, Krishna's going, well, okay, they'll probably get it eventually, you keep throwing dirt on your face, washing it off, throwing it on your face, washing it off. Eventually, I'm hoping that I can just keep my face clean and,
Yeah.
you know,
Can-
find that.
Can I say something definitively? This I'm assured of. It's not a maybe. Krishna knows you're going to be successful. He knows when, you just don't know when. Okay? It's a definitive. It's going to happen. So it's an affirmation. So I like to use analogies. So let's consider this a spiritual fat trimming program. You're cutting the fat out, or you're cutting the matter out, right? So if you practice something, let's say the last time I was here, which was in August, I think. You wouldn't be able to tell, but I may have weighed a little bit more, but I've been losing weight. And of course, I'm doing the other things, but yeah, the temple life. Oh my God. I would have never thought. I recommend it, just for the weight loss, right? But so the excess things you don't need, you have to think about, do I really need this, right? Do I need this association? Do I need these family members who gaslight me, right? And until you build your force field, that nothing can penetrate it in terms of hurtful things people say and do, you continue to build that up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And visualize yourself within here and feel the vibration of you chanting. It's a personal connection. It's a connection. It's a petition for love. And the more you do that, you don't have to do 108. Just concentrate on one mala. Just one mala. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I've surmised that when you're feeling symptoms of happiness, enlightenment, and knowledge, whether you're in kirtan, whether you're in class, it's actually Krishna experiencing it in your body, and you're allowing it to happen. You surrender. That's a moment when you're surrendered. And then this is the ingenuity, right? Like the word Genesis, it means the beginning. It's starting something new. So you're always starting something new, right? Within the soul. And then you're making a fresh connection. So you can give gratitude. I'm so grateful that we have this program every Sunday. I don't always make it Sundays, but sometimes when I come, it's really fulfilling. These are affirmations of gratitude. So I'm giving you little techniques that you can use to help you get to where you want to be. So this is you're giving the mind something to do. Because if you don't give the mind, it's like kids. If you don't give them something to do, oh my God, their mind say, go over here. No, we'll stop here. It's just everywhere. So you have to remember, you have to treat the mind like a child. You have to give it some activity that it can do. And if you give it that, even if it's just one mala, you could always, yesterday chanting was so nice because I was able to get 2 malas in that I could remember that was so nice. Or I read a whole shloka and I had questions and I wrote it down. And I sent these questions to Bhakti Mark Swami. So I remember we were on a Zoom call for the Cleveland Yatra. And I was asking Bhakti Mark Swami some questions because I was getting these realizations. That's what happens when I'm reading it. And he would say, "You're very, very scholarly, aren't you?" He was like, he didn't want to entertain. He's trying to keep it simple. But that's how my mind works. I understand my nature. I look at something and I see deeper things in it. So understand your nature. whether that's reading, cooking, kirtan, association with devotees, traveling, the realization, those things are also going from Portland, Seattle, San Francisco. All those things are very much Krishna conscious because you remember, or coming to New Vrindavan, doing the play and thinking, oh, this was, but it was blissful. But trying to remember, I was tired. You didn't have time for Maya, right? Because you were just heavily engaged. So I'm telling you, all those things are there. We're just not thinking that those are pieces to help us become Krishna conscious. In a lot of ways, Krishna consciousness is so simple. What makes it difficult is that we get in the way. We don't believe that the simple things are enough to make us Krishna conscious. It really is. So just be appreciative. And the more you appreciate, watch abundance grow in your life. Things will prosper. Because once you appreciate that, you appreciate the next thing. You start, I didn't see this before. I didn't know that Prabhu could do that, or that Mataji could do. You start to appreciate people at a level that you didn't appreciate before. Because now you're loving yourself more. When you love yourself, like when you hate yourself, you can easily fault find with others. That's the quality of fault finding. You're always criticizing other people because you see your faults in the other person. But when you are appreciating yourself on the spirit soul level, then you start to see those qualities in other people and you appreciate them more. So this is a technique to love yourself. My Guru Maharaj wrote about a lot of these things in his books. Maybe next time I'll bring, I don't know if you guys have Bhakti Tirtha Swami's books, but a lot of those things that he always talks about applied spiritual technologies. So I'm giving you these technologies that you can apply. Just if they work for you, and you can come up with your own. They're not exclusive that, oh, I have to follow this. You can discover spiritual technologies that'll assist you in your own Krishna consciousness. You should be open to that. You know, can I do this? And you can check with Bhakti Mark Swami is so liberal. He's so liberal. I see a lot. I just look at him. I can see I watch him as he's dancing. You know, he's got that little 1960s groove going. He's doing that step. He's moving. I said, oh, yeah, he's got a little soul in him, and he's trying to bring it out. And so this is why his passion is in theater. Okay. I recognize those qualities because I have theater background. I can see it. I like dance too. There's still things I like to do, you know. So we can use those things in Krishna consciousness. I have God brother in Chicago. His name is Vaishnava Sevananda. And we've been talking about for years. I came up with the term Vrindavan funk, right? Because we want to do some funk. Everybody's doing everything out, hip hop. Nobody's doing the funk, right? And if you guys remember the tune by Tom Brown, Jamaica funk is what it is. So we just replace it. Vrindavan funk is what it is. Funkin' for Vrindavan. So we're just trying to pull it together. And Krishna has a sense of humor. And Krishna is fun. So if that's the level you're at, if you're not at that, you know, these yogis with the long hair and all that kind of stuff, approach Krishna conscious, get in where you can fit in, right? So we have to understand how to utilize this. And this is how you preach to the youth. This is how you preach to this millennials and Z. They can understand. They can groove with that kind of thing. So this is how we can relate to them. Because even though materially they're in a different generation, we're the exact same souls. We just have to bridge preaching. We have to know how to bridge that gap to where we are and where they are. And I'm just doing the same thing, giving you tools that you can do and you can start creating to help you in your Krishna conscious, to remind you that I am a pure soul. And at this moment, I want to act on that platform until I don't. Okay?
That was what one of the main topics of the mantra was humor in Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
You know, because everybody, don't take it so seriously. Don't take, so if somebody makes a mistake or something, don't look at them and you know, come down on them. You know, maybe just laugh. You know, just look at it as something that happened and find some humor in it rather than finding such seriousness, you know. So there is humor in Krishna consciousness. It's okay. It's okay to have fun.
Let's break that word down. Mistake. Right? So you're trying to take something, but you missed it. Right? Also look at it as a lesson. Every failure is really just a lesson. They're teaching moments for yourself. This is how we learn from our past. So yeah, we can laugh. Even when you make a mistake, you know, we're trying to, this is my land. Oop, it's not my land. It's somebody else's. So when we have these mistakes, we can laugh. I often laugh at myself. I was talking about this, staying with Prabhu. I was saying, wow, this mirror is so nice. I look so wonderful in this mirror. It's just great. God, I'm youthful. I look, and I said it's like the hall of mirrors. You know, you go to the fun house and you get distortions. That's what it is. Mira, the Spanish word. Mira, right? It's a reflection. This is not the original thing, right? And it's distorted. So sometimes, I don't know if you have this experience, you wake up in the morning, my hair is just right. Got no hair, you know, but it's just right this morning. Everything's perfect. You know, you walk out today and then other days go, God, you really look horrendous today. Did you sleep well? So we have to laugh at the self, right? Because Krishna is, I say this often. If you want to make Krishna laugh, tell him your plans. And I add it. If you want to see him go hysterical, tell him how it's going to work out. So there's a lot. The body is enough to laugh at. But we got to understand, just like your car, you're attracted to your car. You have a truck, or you have an SUV or whatever. For somebody else, that's an ugly car. So we tie our identity to things. So yeah, laugh at it. And you can get past, and that's actually good for your mental health. This is from a counseling standpoint. This is a way you recover from trauma. Okay, am I getting a cue? Is that thing? Any other questions, comments?
Can you elaborate on the piece where you said that Krishna conscious Krishna already knows that you are successful? Can you elaborate on the piece where you said that it is guaranteed that you are going to succeed?
Yes. So we are a pure spirit soul, right? Time is an illusion. In the spiritual world, it's not linear, right? So yesterday is today, tomorrow is now. So we see things. I'm 64, I'm 62, I'm 49, I'm this, I'm that. We see this as linear time. So the body is aging and I'm running out of time, right? So when you go to sleep at night, you're dreaming. And you absolutely accept that you're that person in that dream. And it only lasts maybe for 5 minutes, the dream, right? 5-minute dream. And then you had a lifetime experience. So we've had many lives, but the soul's not aging. So we're getting these lessons. These lessons are coming, okay? So we have to understand, if we can suspend the idea that I'm my body, then we can see that success is near. And it's in the affirmations. It's in the reaffirming that I'm not this body, but this is why I'm not the body. And I always use the example. I run into people when I'm preaching, and they ask me a few things, and they go, "You talk about karma, blah blah blah. So you believe in reincarnation?" I said, "I not only believe in it; it's a fact, and I'll give you evidence." I said, "So you had a body when you were 1 year old, right?" They go, "Yeah." "Where's the body?" "Well, this is it. It doesn't look like a 1-year-old body." you told me you were this age. That's not 1 year. Where's the 1-year-old body? Well, it's gone. Yeah, it died. So you transmigrated from that body to the one you're in right now. So you're reincarnating right in your own life cycle. So my mother, who lives around the corner, she's 92 years old. I remember when she was in her 40s. She looked ever youthful. And because of her sour disposition, she looks terrible now. Now, I went to a birthday party of my uncle, who's 95. I couldn't believe how youthful he looked. He looked younger than my mother. You know, I don't know what the recipe is because he does some crazy things, you know, but he's not bitter about anybody. I could see that. So you see the body, and he's thinking, yeah, I got another 5 years. I'll make it to 100, right? But the time is irrelevant, right? It's what you do with that time. So if you're in this Krishna consciousness for a long enough period, you'll be able to experience real eternality, even though you're aging. I remember when I joined the movement, back in the 80s, and it's funny now, I'm almost the same weight I was when I joined. And my energy's better. There's a lot of things are better. Of course, I'm more knowledgeable, but I don't have the same dark hair, the afro's not out, all that kind of stuff. But I look at that as just time stamped. Okay. So I appreciated the difficulties that I went through. And I had a lot of difficulties. I had a lot of challenges, I had a lot of lessons, right? Things like, I don't want to associate with these. But here I am now. So it's only a blip on the map, just a speck of time. But the soul, because I've stayed into this process, my consciousness is being better revealed. So I'm more encouraged now. I remember when I first met you at your house over in, I don't know, we were in Lakewood or something. And I was talking to you, and you were trying to wrestle with things, right? And you talked to me a lot of stuff, and I remember then and then now. I'm seeing the transition. And you've taken on so much more responsibility than you did, and then the kids, and then all the other things. That's been over 20 years. Okay, so you look at where you are now in Krishna consciousness. So that is the point where you will pick up, if that's where you finish here. So we have to understand you're building a bridge to spirituality. And that starts when you accept that you're the spirit soul. And the spirit soul, by its constitution, is already eternal. And remember, you're here for lessons, not to become the CEO of Giant Eagle or Cleveland Clinic or get so much property, right? In the spiritual world, everything belongs to you and you share it at the same time. Everything belongs to everybody. So what would you want? Amass all of these material things that you have to separate from in consciousness, or build your spiritual environment, your consciousness, where it's already eternal. It's already there. It's waiting for you. We just have to get you to move from the lower vibration to the higher vibration. And that's the technique. Did I answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
I just had to make a comment. So yesterday, my husband and I went through quite an ordeal. We were trying to get rid of all of our stuff that we've accumulated over 60 years. And we were trying to make money, work from it. And so before I left, I looked at the deities and I said, well, Radha and Krishna, I'm definitely not going to ask you to have a successful sale. I said, I know there'll be a lesson in all of this. I don't know what it's gonna be,
Mhm.
but it'll be less. And so we had our sale and we made $5. And it was, it was just like, wow, it's time and effort and anyway. So I got home and I looked at Krishna and I said, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. And went to bed and I got up and Madhavananda kindly told me, well, I figured out that Krishna just really wants us to tell us that it's just stuff. It's just stuff. Just get rid of it.
And if you take that shiny new thing out of that nice new box and you start using it, it doesn't matter if you paid $1,000 for it, or $2,000, or $500. It's worthless.
I was thinking, as you mentioned that, charity in the mode of goodness. So when you're Brahminical, when you're giving things. So the thing is, what's my motivation?
Yeah.
Why do I have the impetus to want to give this stuff away? What's the motivation? Now, see, if you said that, I just want to get rid of this stuff. And then later said, I want to make money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Krishna, here's the first part. I'll arrange for you to get everything away. Sometimes, people, I'll give you a story. My significant other decided to part ways under certain pretense. And we had a mover come over. And the mover, well, I helped them. It's weird. I helped them pack some of the things in the truck. And then when she got to her destination, she's waiting on this stuff. It never came. They stole everything. I was laughing too. I was literally laughing because I knew Krishna don't like mess. He doesn't like, even devotees, we have to be very careful. You can't cheat each other. Even if you're together, you can't cheat each other. So he took everything. And I was hysterical. And I had new stuff, just like you said. I just bought couch and had a brand new bed and all this stuff. And I was just laughing because I was like, I felt relieved, and I said, okay. So when I moved, I had very few things. As a matter of fact, when I stopped in Denver, I donated I was trying to sell my washer and dryer. Could not sell it. So I gave it away. I gave it to the temple. So I was giving. So in the mode of goodness, I was doing charity and giving to the Brahmins, that sort of thing. So you have to understand the motivation because Krishna Krishna says, when I find favor on my devotee, I give him all material opulence. But when I find special favor on my devotee, I take it all away. Right? So Krishna can easily, it depends on your mood. This is a technique to create abundance by being charitable. And it starts with you. Are you giving yourself charity? Because you're helping someone who may need something, right? And they're thanking you. Like I have people thank me about saying, hey, your class, or you did this, you did. I'm like, and I always think it was Krishna's arrangement. I was just there. We also have to see ourselves as signpost. The sign doesn't give direction, right? Particularly, it's the person who posts the sign there. There's a stop sign there for a reason. Like you do your Dandavats and the stop sign. Oh, thank you. I could have been sideswiped. No. There's a proper administration, right? That put things in place for our protection. So Krishna's rejection is our protection, right? So there's an opportunity there. So how do you want to see this is part of your meditation as well, part of your lesson, and part of you actualizing what your spiritual consciousness is. When you start seeing it more spiritually. Well, Krishna did this. Now I don't have this. And all of a sudden, to finish the story. So my better half, she started getting things pretty cheap, right? And then try to cash in on some other things, like that. And I'm just thinking, Krishna made arrangements. He can take and then he can give. So it was funny to me because I was watching it in action, Krishna arranging things. And I've seen things like that happen. I've had things removed from me. I tell the story about Jetayu when I was working with him in PEP. And I was like, I don't want to see any devotees. I don't want to see any devotees, right? And I had this kid in the timeout room on the floor, and I'm walking. He's got that little strut, and he's walking past, and he stops. He gets to the floor and does full dandavats. I had the kid on the floor. I was like, oh no, not devotees. I was trying not to see them. So Krishna put him in my life, and it was so enriching. I have to just say this. I can't do anything without mentioning to tell you. I love him so much. I say that in the present, not the past tense. I love Jetayu so much. He's always with me. He's always with me. And I appreciate him. We had a lot of fun. We still have fun. He gets to laugh with me more. We can't do it together, right? But I just appreciate it. So this is also another thing that you can add to your list of loving things. You can think about the relationships you've had of loving people who help to spark your Krishna consciousness, whether it was funny or not. And he did some hilarious stuff. I mean, we had fun. It was ridiculous, the fun that we had. So I appreciated that. Laughing. We did a lot of it. So just be appreciative of what you have. And you'll be amazed at what will come into your life. Just be open, right? Closed fist, can't grab anything. But be open. Be specific about, I'm open to receive this level of love in my life. Say those things as your affirmation. I'm open to receive pure love in my life. I'm open to receive pure loving relationships in my life. Say those things and watch what happens. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki. All glories to the Cleveland Yatra ki. Nitai Gauda Pavanande.
Jai.
Oh, I forgot.